this time I'd like to introduce Mark McConnell. He's from Mississippi. That's what most of his bio said. He's kind of like me, likes my bios really short. And then did you say LSU?
Yeah.
Yes, so we in Ohio don't hold any of that against him. We had that conversation yesterday, but I'd like to introduce him. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thanks for letting me be here. I've heard about this meeting for quite some time. I've never had the chance to attend it, and I'm really thankful to be able to be here. I wish I could stay the whole time, but I'm not able to. As Doug said, I'm from Mississippi. I'm the chief engineer with Mississippi DOT, and I didn't send in my bio, so that's okay. I don't really need a bio, but just to give you a little background of where I came from and why I'm here. I started in maintenance. I actually started in construction, moved to maintenance as a maintenance engineer, and then became assistant state maintenance engineer. When I was state maintenance or assistant state maintenance engineer, we didn't even have an equipment division or asset management division, which we have now. And we had what we call an equipment committee. And so we all got together, all the different districts and divisions, and talked about equipment, what the specs needed to be. Reed McAtee is here, who used to write the specs out of maintenance division, which is now in asset management. So after that, we created asset management because we knew how important equipment was. And so that's where I came from. I was maintenance engineer, then I became assistant state maintenance engineer, then I became assistant chief, and now I'm chief, which is over design and operations. And so still equipment is very important to me. And since then, also in my role as maintenance engineer in Mississippi, I've been given the honor of being equipment rodeo chairman. And I know a lot of you states don't have equipment rodeos, but I would encourage it. The Southeast is really, I think we've got 10 of the 13 states, 11, I don't know how many states are involved now. Started with Arkansas. Danny Keene is here. Arkansas started the equipment rodeo years ago, and now we have all the states just about in the Southeast. And I've learned a lot from that, not only because it's a way to promote safety with our equipment operators, but also it allowed me to meet the workforce. And I could hear all of their concerns on equipment, on operations, on safety. And that was really important to me, and I really hated to give that job up. But since then, coming up with my background in maintenance, when Carlos Braceros left from Utah DOT, to become the chairman of the subcommittee on design, they asked me to be the chairman of the subcommittee on maintenance. And so that's why I'm here. I'm in my 30th year with the DOT, and it's a pleasure to be here. And if I understand it right, there's 35 to 40 states here, is that right? Which is a great thing. I know I was in the subcommittee on maintenance when we talked about creating the EMTSP so that we could get together in a national forum like this, and it's great to see all that happen. Real briefly, I'm going to go through a little bit of the Subcommittee on Maintenance strategic plan, and I highlighted a few of the things that I thought would be important. I have the vision and the mission up here for the Subcommittee on Maintenance, which we just developed. As you're aware, AASHTO has just developed a new strategic plan. And so the subcommittee decided to get together and develop our new strategic plan, and that's what I'm showing you here. But a few things I highlighted is that support. The subcommittee on maintenance is to support all of our agencies and really to be the nation's place to go to find out information about maintenance. Also, we're supposed to be the leader in innovation. If something is coming down the pike and that we really need to be looking at across the states, the subcommittee should be the place that people come and look to that. And obviously preserving and maintaining the highway system. As everybody knows, the funding is not where it should be. So we got to be smarter. And how do we be smarter? We have to be smarter with our equipment. We have to be smarter with the way that we do our maintenance. Construction money is down, so more money is being put on preserving and maintaining what we have. For example, in Mississippi, we created what we call the 1987 road program, which put 4-lane highways within 30 miles of every resident in Mississippi. It was a great construction program, but guess what? They didn't put anything in there for maintenance. So 1987, it's now 2016. We got roads falling apart because we didn't have any maintenance set up. So it's important both from the maintenance side and equipment that we create ways to be able to preserve our infrastructure in a more, in a better way. Also in the strategic plan, we show our goals, and just briefly to talk about a couple of things. Accountability, environmental stewardship. We're all accountable, whether it's in our professional life or in our personal life. And doing things the way that we've always done them is not always the best way anymore. We've got to be smarter, as the director just said. We've got to be smarter with our workforce. We've got to be smarter with our equipment. And we've got to be accountable. The legislature is always looking at us to say, well, why do you do that? Or why do you do that? In Mississippi, we've just had a big push to try to get more funding, as I know a lot of states are doing. We had convinced our legislature, we thought, that they knew we needed more money for pavements and bridges. Well, once we got to the legislative session, they just kind of kicked the can down the road and said, well, we need to look at MDOT a little bit more. So we've already had 3 or 4 studies. Now they're going to come study us again. But the point is, we've got to be prepared when the legislature asks a question. We've got to be able to show our why we do things, and we need to give them measures. Environmental stewardship. You know, when I was growing up and in construction and maintenance, I didn't really care if we had silt going off into streams and that type of stuff. But now it's really important. And if you think about it holistically, we all want our streams and our rivers to be good for our kids and grandkids going forward. And from the equipment side, from the maintenance side, we all need to be good stewards of the environment, and that is something that I wanted to stress in our goals. And when I looked at the EMTSP strategic plan and goals, they mirror a lot of what I'm talking about in the subcommittee. In our subcommittee, kind of the structure is, and I'm going to get to that in the next slide, but we have focus areas that each of our technical working groups are charged with going through each year at our annual meeting, which this year's in July in Las Vegas, which I've never been to Las Vegas, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. But mainly because I get to go see the Hoover Dam. I'm an engineering nerd, but that's going to be pretty cool. But the 6 focus areas that each of our technical working groups will talk about is safety, asset management, environmental, workforce development, communication, and research. And when I looked at the EMTSP goals, there's a lot of similar ones: research and communication, workforce development. This is I just wanted to show real briefly the subcommittee structure. And the important part is I'm the chair. There's 2 vice chairs, so I really don't have to do anything. The vice chairs handle all of the focus areas. Technical working groups, which Tim is the chair of the equipment technical working group, they do all the work, and I just get to sit there and watch it all happen. As I said, we have 5 technical working groups, and these are the groups that do the work. We have breakout sessions at our meetings every year, 2 or 3. We have pavements, bridges, roadway, roadside, equipment, which I underline because that's where EMTSP was actually originated, and maintenance operations. One of the things when I first started going to the subcommittee meetings years ago was going to the equipment technical working group, or back then it was called the task force. There was very little participation. And one of the things the EMTSP has done is the regional chairs and vice chairs, I think that's correct, get to go to the subcommittee on maintenance. And it's really helped get that group to really have a good cross-section across the country. And that's important. And if your state would allow you to go, we would encourage more participation from the equipment group. There's several states have travel restrictions, and so they can't have everybody go. But if you have an equipment If you're allowed to go, I would encourage you to attend the equipment meeting, and Tim chairs that group. This is kind of the matrix of how our subcommittee works, and I put it up there because it's an impressive slide, but it's a lot of busy stuff. But I wanted to highlight the part in the yellow, what talks about what we're doing in the technical working groups: writing guidelines and standards, updating manuals, identifying, communicating emerging practices, newsletters. There's a lot of stuff that comes out of that group that's very important. Now, real quick, I got this off the EMTSP website, and this is the vision and mission for EMTSP, which I'm sure y'all have already seen, but I wanted to look at it myself. And it has a lot of the same things that the subcommittee has: supporting effective and efficient government highway fleet management. Again, equipment technical services program should be the leader. You guys are the ones who know about equipment. You know what the specs are. You know what our operators need. And this group ought to be the one that leads in that effort. Emerging technologies, it's just like in the subcommittee, innovation. We've got to have smarter equipment, smarter workforce, and we've got a lot of issues with our workforce as we have today. The newer guys don't think the way we do. And I've learned that. They want to be included in everything. They want to be, it's a whole different mentality. The newer guys want to feel part of the team. They don't really have a loyalty. They're not loyal really to the agency. They've got to be part of the team. They got to feel part of the decision making, and it's a whole different way of staffing. One of the things also is research, and y'all have already talked about some research that y'all have talked about yesterday, and that goes into technologies. I'm going to talk about a little bit connected vehicles and that type of stuff. That's going to be really important going forward. And this group, when you're here at this meeting, what I encourage you to do is talk to all the different states. I've always said there's nothing you can't steal from another state. And I always encourage all of our folks in Mississippi, if you hear of something that another state's doing that's better than we're doing, go find out what it is, and let's try to implement it in Mississippi. Again, here are the goals for the EMTSP. I won't read through them, but I will highlight a couple of things. It kind of emphasizes some of the same things that the subcommittee does. Workforce development. I talked about the difference in our people who are coming to work for us, not only from the equipment management field, but also the operators. You know, we have a lot of younger folks who can operate video games, but not so much equipment. So now I know a lot of the equipment manufacturers are making it seem like video games. There's a lot of intelligent equipment out there now that's really going to be stressed in the future. EPA regulations, you guys are the ones that know when something changes, and that's important that we all know what they are when it happens. And then obviously performance measures, which the equipment side has always been proactive on performance measures and making sure we're using our equipment the best way we can. These are the focus areas, and again, there's workforce development, research, communications. A lot of those are the same as what we talk about in the subcommittee on maintenance. Just a few observations I wanted to make real quick. As I tell our folks every time I get up and speak in Mississippi, is safety is number one. We've had several accidents in Mississippi lately, and it can only be tied to people not paying attention. It's distracted driving, and I know you guys all know about that as well. We've got to figure out ways to make our equipment keep our folks safer, whatever that might be. You know, we had a employee tragically killed and he was the follow vehicle in a moving operation. He had an attenuator behind the dump truck. He was in a dump truck. 18-wheeler with an excavator was on it. Didn't even slow up, hit the back of the truck, shoved the attenuator into the bed of the truck, sheared the bed of the truck, and it went into the cab and killed him. So here we are, we have a follow vehicle which is supposed to make our crew safer, and he was killed. So I don't know what the answer to that is. I've called several manufacturers of attenuators. There's nothing that could have prevented that, I don't think, with that big of a load going that fast. But we've got to be, as an engineer and as an operations guy, we've got to figure out the best way to keep our guys safe, whatever that is. Smart work zones, that's the buzzword now. Intrusion alarms in our work zones. We're looking at our occupational and health of our employees and developing a huge safety program in Mississippi now, but it's, you know, on the roadway, driver safety, distracted drivers. I'm not sure what the answer is, and I hope there's nobody here that can call me on this, but the technology is there that they can, when you get in a vehicle, it shuts your cell phone off. To me, that's something that we need to be pushing as a transportation agencies, because that's where all the accidents, well, not all of them, but a lot of them are coming from distracted driving, whether they're texting, whether they're on the phone. And it's just frustrating to me that we're sending our folks out there who are not the highest paid people, and we're putting them in harm's way, and people are not paying attention. We've had 2 accidents here in the last few months where we're mowing on the slopes. People fall asleep and go off and hit our tractors in the slopes. So I don't know what the answer is, but there's got to be something. And if we could shut off the phones, or, you know, we're putting rumble strips and rumble stripes all over the roadways to let them know when they're going off the road, but we're still having accidents. Some of the innovations that I've already mentioned briefly, connected vehicles and autonomous vehicles. You know, I always kind of thought that was pie in the sky, off in the future. Well, at our last AASHTO meeting in Iowa, they had a panel discussion with California, Michigan, and Nevada. And they're already being used on the roadway. Now, they're pilot programs now, but they're actually having vehicles that will drive themselves. And it's, you know, in a rural state like Mississippi, I don't know that when that would ever happen, but in an urban area, it does make sense. They talked about how the technology is there that, you know, somebody runs out in front of a car from behind a car and you can't see it, and you would hit that child. The vehicles are smart enough to stop, whereas we wouldn't be able to react in time to stop it. Now, there's a lot of issues, and everybody's concerned about hacking into the system and, you know, somebody making people drive into people and all that kind of stuff. But the technology is there and it's coming. And one of the things that is encouraging to me that would really be a benefit is for the elderly people around the country. And my mother-in-law is one of them. She can't drive, so somebody has to go drive them to the doctor or whatever. If this ever does really take off, then you can have a car drive them to the doctor. It seems strange, without a driver, and then bring them back. Kind of like the Jetsons, but except it's not in the air. But some of the other things that is encouraging to me is the technology on platooning. Now, the trucking industry is looking at that to where they can have, you know, 3 or 4 trucks end to end going down the highway and only have 1 driver. That's scary to me. But where I'm looking at platooning that would really be a benefit is for the maintenance operations. That issue that we had with our driver being killed, if you could have that guy not have a driver in the truck who's in the follow vehicle behind the work zone, that would be a real big benefit to all the DOTs. So I'm looking forward to that. Smart equipment, and I'm sure all of y'all are involved in writing specs for this, but motor graders, dozers, all of that, automated grading equipment. it's becoming, I'm sure most of your states are using it every day in construction, where you load a model of the grading project into the grader and it pretty much operates on its own. And the reason that's such a useful tool is because of the younger workforce, they can operate something with a stick and a video screen and all that stuff. So it's a good use of technology. And last, the workforce changes. You know, I'm a baby boomer, or right on the edge of a baby boomer. And, you know, we got a job, we stuck with it for 30 years. We came to work on time. That's just the way we thought. The generation now is not that way. And so we've all got to be aware of the younger workforce and how we it's not that they're not good workers, they are good workers. But we got to make sure that we are making them feel part of the team and making use of the talents that they have. So just a couple of concluding remarks. Equipment and asset management are extremely important, not only from the highway assets, but also equipment assets. You know, the old days, and I was a maintenance engineer, so I'm one of them, but I used to want to have equipment in each county so they could go do all the work that they needed to do when they needed to do it. But then they would have a motor grader sitting there for 6 months out of the year. They'd have a dozer sitting there, and that's not a good use of taxpayer money. So we're really trying to make sure that we have the adequate amount of equipment for our counties and our floating crews. And then if we need a supplement, we need rentals and leases and that type stuff. And I'm sure everybody is doing the same thing, but it's not, we can't keep just buying equipment just to have equipment on the yard. Again, I talked about new construction funding is down. That's something that is a struggle across the country, although some states have been proactive and their legislature has listened and they do have money for new construction. But because of that, we've got to focus on preservation of what we have. That includes equipment. We've got to preserve what we have so that it will last as long as it can. But also on the highway side, we can't just keep doing what we're doing. We've got to spend more money on preservation and making sure that our bridges and pavements stay in as good a shape as we can make them. Again, technology is always changing, and in the equipment side, it seems like it's just going exponentially faster in equipment. And this group needs to be the one that needs to be the leader to wade through all of the technology and determine what can actually be used in the DOTs, given what the workforce is and how we do business. We need to have performance measures in place, which in equipment we've done a pretty good job of that, but across the board in all DOTs, we got to be able to show to the legislature what we're doing, why we're doing it, and that we're doing it as good as we can. That's a real struggle for us to make sure that we do have things that we can quantify, that we can measure. And, you know, I think about this a lot. Consider the workforce in 2030. What's it going to look like? We're not going to be here. Maybe some of us will be. But what's it going to look like? Are we going to be able to continue DOT work? We're going to have to privatize? I hope not, because I think we can do a better job with the DOT workforce than we can privatizing. But, you know, if we don't think ahead and think about how we need to train our new employees, we're going to lose them, and then we're going to lose experience, and then it's just a snowball until we have to privatize. And lastly, I'd like to say, take advantage of this meeting. As I said, I wish I could be here longer so I could meet some of you. I know some of the folks, especially from the South, but these kind of meetings are important because it gives you the opportunity to meet informally. You know, the discussions you have drinking coffee or at the table, or you find out what other states are doing and make it benefit you. Don't just come to enjoy a meeting and enjoy the meals and the festivities. Come to bring something back to your DOTs. Bring something back that you can implement And if you have that attitude towards this meeting, it'll really be an advantage. Develop relationships. If you can meet the folks in this room, you'll feel comfortable picking up the phone and calling them and say, hey, you know, I heard you're doing this. Can you send me information? I do that all the time. In fact, in Ohio, Jim Barna sent me an email yesterday. It was a coincidence. I said, well, I'm in Columbus. Let's come talk to me. But he was asking about something else. He had somebody who was coming to Mississippi and wanted to talk to me. I said, sure, I'll set up a meeting. But the fact that I know Jim, he felt comfortable sending that email to me. And that's a really important part of this meeting and all meetings at AASHTO. So with that, I was brief, but I really appreciate being here, and I wish you the best in the meeting. I'm not going to be able to stay, but thank you so much.